I'm in a fairly typical street in the UK. Let's take a look at what people are driving. Here is a Ford Fiesta, and that is a manual. Let's take a look at this Mini across the street. And I did look both ways, although the camera didn't, before across the road that is. And that is also a manual. I'm not going to look at this Fiesta because I just looked at that one. So don't need to look at two Fiestas. Let's go and have a look at this Citroen DS3 instead. Is that a manual or an automatic? Also a manual. Now there is a Mercedes C-Class down there. I believe that is automatic because it's the E model, which means it's going to be hybrid. I'm going to have a quick run just to confirm. Yes, C350E. So that is going to be an automatic, but this is a much more expensive car and it's also still fairly young, being 5 years old. Yeah, 5. Do your maths, Richard. All petrol and diesel cars need gears. Some change gear automatically for you, and in others you have to change gear manually yourself. All early cars were manual, and the automatic gearbox didn't start to become widely available until the 1930s and 40s, or at least widely available in certain parts of the world. But that's 80 years ago. Why is the manual still so popular today? And in some markets such as America, the automatic has been the norm for some time now. In fact, in some states you can actually pass your driving test in an automatic and be allowed to drive a manual. I can only guess this can be allowed because there's so few manuals that it's not a major safety concern. But in the UK, most small cheap cars are manual. So if people in the UK could pass in an automatic and then drive a manual, we would have somewhere between 500,000 and 700,000 new drivers each year passing in automatics with no manual experience, taking to the road for the first time in their manual. And in a country that has a population of only around 67 million, that's a lot of drivers who don't know how to control their car. That could be quite chaotic. In the UK, the manual gearbox is in decline. In 2010, 20% of new cars sold were automatic. And back then, that was considered a lot. By 2018, 43% of new cars sold were automatic. But now, nearly 60% of new cars sold in the UK are automatic. So although new drivers are still opting to pass their driving test in a manual, over 90% of driving tests are manual, the automatic is becoming the norm. So why has it taken so long for the automatic to start to take off in the UK? Well, it's quite simple. Traditional automatics with torque converters were big, heavy and inefficient. That does not bode well with Asian and European cars. In the UK, we primarily use Asian cars and European cars. However, in America, their cars are already big, heavy and inefficient. They have big 5.7 litre V8s, which they call a 350 cubic inch, with loads of torque, so having a less efficient gearbox doesn't make as much of a difference. And gasoline, as they call it over there, is much cheaper. So having the convenience of an automatic makes more sense because the negatives aren't as noticeable. However, if you were to put a traditional automatic in, say, something like a 1.1 litre Ford Fiesta from the 1980s, it's going to drive like you've left the handbrake on. But in the early noughties or 2000s, something started to change. It was out with the traditional torque converter planetary gear automatic and in with the robotised manual. Yes, automatics were no longer really automatics. They were actually a manual, but with a robot changing gear for you. So that got rid of the disadvantage of the automatic being less efficient and bigger and heavier. They're almost the same size and same weight. The only disadvantage was the price. Normally it added around £1,000 to £1,500 to the list price of a car, and they worked well in small cars with small engines as well. Therefore, opting to have the extra convenience of the car changing gear for you was no longer such a problem. Well, it was actually convenient. And then the automatic started to become popular. And Japanese manufacturers started to use something called a CVT, which stands for continuously variable transmission. They work well with big engine cars and low-powered small engine cars. The only trouble is how they sound. Many people don't like the fact that it actually sounds like your engine is staying at a constant velocity whenever you put your foot hard on the gas. It kind of goes mmm. And in fact, in one of my videos, I made a mistake of calling it a constant velocity transmission just because I was so used to hearing that constant velocity of the engine. They work well, they are efficient. If you drive gently, don't worry about it. But if you want to put your foot down, they're not very nice. So the reason why it's taken so long for automatics to become popular in the UK is simply because the technology to make a lightweight, low-powered car, which is most of the cars in the UK, automatic yet still drive in a decent way, has only become widely available recently. But does that mean you shouldn't bother learning manual? You should just learn automatic because all cars are going to be automatic soon. Well, the manual is going to be here for a bit longer than you may think. They're going to be sold up until 2030 minimum, when the petrol and diesel ban comes in, and that ban essentially bans manual. However, that may be delayed, you never know, but let's say the ban happens in 2030, then those cars are still going to be on the road for 10 to 20 years after that. So the manual car will still be popular for quite a while yet. Getting a manual license does give you the freedom to drive whatever car you want. However, of course, learning automatic is easier. But is there another advantage to driving a manual? Or is it all just about the money? It's not just about the money, it's about the experience. If you're brought up around manuals, learned to drive a manual, subsequently got good at driving a manual, and live somewhere where you're not constantly in nose to tail, bumper to bumper traffic, you actually have access to some relatively quiet roads with a half decent speed limit, you may also enjoy driving a manual. It's not guaranteed, of course, not everyone does. It's not everyone's cup of tea. But there are plenty who do. And as a result, with great British country roads, the manual has stayed strong for years. Even though realistically, the economy and how much people earn in this country means that automatics aren't really out of the question. It is a bit of a choice. Now, I could be driving down this road in an automatic, but I know from experience I won't be having as much fun. There is a sense of joy from the achievement of achieving the perfect gear change, the downshift rev match, the heel and toe rev match, under braking, and kissing the red line, although you can do that in an automatic as well. Of course, drive responsibly, and that's part of what makes driving a manual so special. I didn't break the speed limit there, but I enjoyed myself. A very powerful automatic will shoot you up to very high speeds very quickly without you doing much at all, which leads you wanting to enjoy the speed as opposed to the involvement. So therefore, driving a manual enthusiastically allows you to have fun whilst being safe, because there's something else to enjoy. Of course, manuals aren't for everyone. Some people just prefer automatics. I know both. Some people like auto, some people like manual. A lot of people like manual for the same reasons I do, and many people like automatic because, well, it's easier and they're not really enthusiastic about driving. They just want to get from A to B. Whoever you are, doesn't matter. Enjoy your car. Well, I hope this video helps you understand why manuals are still so popular in the UK. If you think it does, please give the video a thumbs up and check out Collingwood and Confused in the description. If you're a learner driver and want to insure yourself on a friend or family member's car, you can do so with Collingwood without affecting the owner's policy. And via the link at the moment, there's up to 35% off and a £20 Amazon gift card. Also check out confused.com, because with confused.com you can fill out one quote form and get many quotes back to see who's cheapest. Also, you can change the car on that quote as many times as you like. I like doing that to compare how much it costs to insure different cars. Using the links doesn't cost you anything, but it does support the channel, so thank you very much, that is appreciated. At the moment I'm doing some theory questions on Facebook and Instagram. They're both Conquer Driving, and subscribe if you want to get my future videos. And until the next one, cheerio.